For 2 months, Serbia has been rocked by massive protests against the abject corruption of Aleksandar Vučić, the longtime president of Serbia. What kicked off these protests was a tragedy when the front of a train station collapsed in Novi Sad, killing 15 people and injuring many more. This has led to months of sustained protests across the entire country and has already resulted in the resignation of the prime minister. Tens of thousands have joined in a nationwide strike effort to build a general strike in Serbia. And while this movement was started by students, it has widely spread since then. Matija, a 45-year-old sailor, went to the protest himself carrying a box with a bloody hand on it, saying it represented the death of the 15 people at Novi Sad into the disaster and the many more killed through the corruption of this current government. And it is tens of thousands of protesters like Matija who are standing up for their democratic rights and their rights to live in a country not ruled by corruption. Among those who've announced work stoppages are the biggest cinema network, theaters, the film industry, and across the country, theaters have been shutting down. The Bar Association with lawyers has expanded to halt work to include 3 more days. This is a society-wide movement that has not been seen before since the movement that moved to get rid of Slobodan Milosevic back in 2000. And while many of the photos you might see come from Belgrade, this is happening all over in towns, big and small. But pro-government forces have been attacking people in the streets, even having people drive into protesters like happened in Belgrade on Friday. Unfortunately, the European Union has been overwhelmingly silent about this, and this is due to the reality that the European Commission and the heads of many member states view Aleksandar Vučić as an ally in the region and a partner to work with, and they are deeply afraid of worrying either their financial concerns or the fact that they're afraid of scaring Serbia into the hands of either the Russian Federation or China. And speaking of China, the train station in Novi Sad, the one that had the roof collapse, had just been renovated by a Chinese company for 55 million euros, and it was celebrated in a grand reopening by Aleksandar Vučić and Viktor Orban himself. And what is worse than EU silence is EU complicity in propping up Aleksandar Vučić's regime by having such glowing reports about how they're actually fighting corruption and putting together a good rule of law, when in reality we can see by the Novi Sad incident that it is not happening, and Aleksandar Vučić's regime retains all of the authoritarian flavor and all the corruption that it has always had. Certain Civic puts it very well by stating, if the protesters are not waving European flags, it's because they see the EU as an ally of the government. Commission officials describe a reality that does not exist in Serbia. The Serbian authorities respect neither the rule of law nor the fundamental principle of democracy. What is happening in Serbia should inspire you to stand up in your own country. Fight on and fight back.